Hey everybody! So is today a big day or anything? I don't really think anything's going on. So yeah, despite the kind of flippant joke there, to sort of lighten the mood at the beginning of this video, I think all of us know that if you're watching this video when it goes up, this is the morning of Inauguration Day for President Joe Biden here in the United States. And if you're anything like me, and while I am filming this a few days before the Inauguration Day, if you're anything like me, you are sitting in kind of heavy anxiety of today. There have been a ton of hints that there are right-wing movements in different areas across the internet that are planning to do protests on all 50 state capitals, as well as the actual inauguration event itself in Washington, D.C. And based on the events as of this, this filming last week's events in Washington, D.C., where the President of the United States, Trump, incited a riot that led to rioters invading the Capitol building. And as we later learned, this was a planned event that intended, at least by some in the riot of the act of terrorism, we'll call it what it is, to try to grab and take hostage and maybe even hurt some of our elected officials in the Capitol building of the United States. My elected officials, I'm from the United States, you may not be. Though I'm certain you're certainly feeling some level of anxiety given how much influence United States politics has on the world. So I'm sure we're all in some level of anxiety, no matter where you are or who you are in the world based on these events. So, why am I making this video? Why am I reciting all that? Well, I wanted to say something right now because I've been trying to sit with my feelings after the riot earlier this month, the attack on the Capitol building. And I actually even filmed a whole video that I didn't release on that event because it ended up just being kind of a rambly mess because I was still very much processing my feelings on it because they are complicated in many levels. And this video, too, may end up being a little bit of a ramble as well. But I hope you'll stick along with me because I kind of want to talk through my thoughts. And I'm hoping that by talking through my thoughts that it will help others process their anxiety, their worry, their feelings on it. And maybe you will think differently than me, but this is just where I am at on it. The events of that riot, of that act of terrorism, that attempted coup, scared me, but more importantly, I think the feeling that I felt most was a deep sadness. Many of you know I'm a huge leftist, Let's, eat the rich, destroy the upper class, break the chains of the proletariat or the bourgeoisie, whichever one it is. I'm a good leftist. But no, I watched that event, and I don't want to downplay at all the horribleness of the actions, especially of the people who intended to go into the Capitol building, but just generally of all the people involved in that event, of that attempted coup. I don't want to downplay any of it because what they did was horrible, disgusting, maybe indicative of the values of America as it is, but definitely not indicative of the values of the America that we hoped to live up to or hope to live up to one day. And definitely don't live up to the values that I try to espouse and try to hold dear. And I condemn them. I condemn everyone that was involved in that heavily. But I lay the largest blame directly at the feet of people like Trump. At Trump specifically, but tons of others. Rudy Giuliani, Mitch McConnell, who enabled this man, Pence, People like that. I could give you a laundry list. Most of them Republicans. Republican leaders, I should say, not, uppercase R Republicans, not lowercase R Republicans. And the reason I place pretty much all of the blame on them is because these are people who knowingly lie to this country over and over and over again. And yes, in the most obvious ways of like, this election was stolen, when clearly it was not. But they lie to these people every day, because one of the things that surprised me, but made perfect sense when I realized it, is that, it is easier to radicalize a person on the right to the far left than it is to take a person in the center to the left. Because the thing is, for people on the right and the left, in a lot of the cases, there is a lot of similarity in the sense that there is a recognition of a problem, that this society is not working the way it should. And the only difference, really, if you on a base level, very, very base level, obviously how that's all played out, there's definitely different issues of morality and ethics and things like that, and actions taken. But on a base ideological level, the only difference really is the solutions that have been offered. The solutions that I follow and that I try to understand is that it is a system that is failing us, is a system that is in its core deeply racist, sexist, meant to make the powerful more powerful and the less powerful stay less powerful, or even become even less powerful. And that's the process of money and capitalism and all of those things. And the solutions offered to people on the right, are it's brown people, black people, trans people, queer people who are doing this to you. People, it's the left, Antifa, lies, essentially. And again, I don't wish to over-empathize with the people who did that riot on the Capitol building. Empathy is a finite resource. I have learned, especially as someone who's starting to grow an audience and trying to connect and build a community, there's only so much empathy I am able to give all around without tiring myself out and needing to recharge. And so, I there's a point where you just can't empathize with people who are harmful to you. But on some level, I do understand a group of people that have been lied to from their, upbringing, from how they've been told to see other people, see others as others, people who are not part of their community, been lied to and then told over and over again that election was stolen. Of course they're going to react that way. Of course. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't mean that their hands are washed of responsibility. But I lay the predominant blame on people like Trump, who lie and lie and lie repeatedly to people who have been told their entire lives to trust people like him. Again, not washing them of culpability, not saying that they don't deserve to be punished for their actions, but that I think the feeling that I feel for them is not anger or vindictiveness that I think a lot of other people understandably feel. I'm not shaming anybody for feeling that, but I just feel sad. I just feel sad. This channel is obviously very Star Trek focused. It feels funny to sort of shift gears, but I promise you stick with me on this. This channel is very obviously Star Trek focused. And, I love the nerdy sci-fi crap and all that stuff. I love talking nerdiness with you. That's what this whole channel is about in many ways. But I use that nerdiness, that Star Trek stuff to try and talk about these hard issues. And the reason being is that Star Trek is in many ways my ideology. For all of the show's flaws, and it has many, the thing that it gave me most was this belief in infinite diversity and infinite combinations. To believe that we are better when we look at others with love and an attempt to understand with curiosity, an earnest curiosity and desire to get to know them, a desire to love them for who they are. And I look at people who follow Trump, and I am saddened by that they don't always get the chance to, that they don't that they don't see that infinite diversity and infinite combinations. I think that's what saddens me most, that they don't look at others with the desire to be curious about them. And look, I am painting with a very broad brush here. I have tried on this channel. The goal of this channel from its very inception is to try to show that infinite diversity and infinite combinations, show my love and joy in infinite diversity and infinite combinations, and to meet people where they are, not tell people where they should be. I don't come in and say, to people, it's like, you need to understand everything about trans rights right now. You need to get things right. I understand people who are upset at people who don't know everything or get everything. That's an understandable line to draw because the resources are there. I understand why channels like, how, I love him for this. Steve Shives takes a much harder stance on his channel. Like, there's certain type of people that I don't want in this channel. And I appreciate that because it creates spaces for people to feel safe in a certain identity, whether you're trans or things like that. And so I understand that those spaces are necessary, and I very much appreciate people like Steve Shives for doing that. But for me, this channel is about trying to meet people where they're at and not to speak down to people or tell people where they should be, but to just be like, hey, I see where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. This is where I come from. Let's talk about it. Let's try and find the joy here and try to learn about each other. Because that's ultimately all I want to do, is just to get people to feel joy about learning about each other. And the hope is that by doing so, I can make people understand what it is to be trans, or help uplift discussion of other identities and minority groups that I may not be a part of, but I, try my best to be an ally for, and to create a space for discussions of those issues to be brought up. And also to listen to other people who may think that some issues are confusing or hard or wrong even, that I may disagree with their stance on, but at least try to listen to it and try and see where they're coming from to try and have that conversation. That's what I want to do, to create those spaces, and that's not always very easy work. It's sometimes a line I don't always toe super well. Sometimes I am super didactic and piss people off when I'm trying to reach out to them. And sometimes I reach out too far and maybe, don't pay enough attention to the communities that I am trying to advocate for, or my own community, or even my own mental health in doing so. Sometimes I reach too far and hurt my own self because I'm over empathizing in a way that's harmful to me. There's only so much empathy you can have energy to give before it becomes harmful to yourself. I say all that because I realize that while that is the goal of this channel, there's only so much I can do. There's only so much any of us can do in the face of all of this. When you look at something like the attempted coup 2 weeks ago, a week ago, however long it was, time is a flat circle, it makes no sense during these COVID pandemic times. There's only so much you can do. You can't convince everyone. You can't change everyone. You can't have empathy for everybody. As much as I would love to, as much as I would like to. And it's not to say I won't try. It's not to say I'm like discounting people. But there's a point where you have to realize, like, there's only so much I can do. And that saddens me. It really does. But I don't want to end on a sour note. I think that was something important that I want to end on, though, is that there's a quote that I've overused in a lot of my earlier videos, but one that I keep coming back to, also from Star Trek, is it's something that Data says, and it's a quote that is credited to Gene Roddenberry, but Data says it in The Next Generation. I don't know exactly who wrote it for sure, but the line essentially is, I'm paraphrasing, but we must strive to be more than we are. It does not matter if we will reach our ultimate goal. The effort yields its own reward. And that is another phrase that I try to live my life by. I am saddened that there are people that I can't reach, that people that will not understand the joy of infinite diversity of infinite combinations. And I understand, that there's only so much energy to be able to go around, and sometimes you can't change those people's minds, even if you did have all the energy in the world to try and do so. And I am saddened that the fight, the cause, the pursuit of trying to show infinite diversity and infinite combinations will be an endless one. Constant. Near constant. Maybe one day there'll be that bright Star Trek future, and even Star Trek doesn't get there. That perfect world where everyone understands IDIC. But maybe we will, but it won't be in my lifetime. Probably for many, many lifetimes after that, and maybe never. But there's no cause. There's nothing I would rather do with my life than pursue that. Than pursue finding joy and fighting for infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And yeah, it may feel overwhelming. Yeah, it may feel hard at times. But I never want to stop fighting for it. I never want to stop fighting for the ability to show the joy of what it means to exist in a community of people that are different from me. I'll fight it till the day I die. And so, as I look at Inauguration Day, it's scary what violence may happen today. I hope there isn't any, but there most certainly will. And hopefully if there is violence, it won't be super harmful or destructive. But again, it might be. And there are going to be a ton of struggles ahead. And there may be, hopefully not, but there might be darker days ahead. But at the end of the day, if I am still fighting for that belief in infinite diversity and infinite combinations, that striving to be more than we are, if I am always striving to be more than I am and helping humanity strive to be more than we are, then I know that we're still on the right path, even if it goes down and up and down and up. As long as there's that through line. So yeah, bit melancholy, certainly not uplifting and joyous at the end, this like rousing speech, it's a bit rambly, and I hope people can understand where I was coming from. I'm sure I did not say everything perfectly. And for that, if I did offend or bother anybody, I do apologize. That wasn't the intention, but I just wanted to be honest about my feelings. And I think, as rambly as it was, those were my feelings as I sort of process them. And at the end of the day, the other important thing to remember is this, and I'll end on this note. I love that you exist. I love that we got to connect for a minute, even if we disagreed. And I think you are wonderful and amazing. I may not agree with all of your ideas if you are someone who disagrees with me very heavily, but I still think your existence is beautiful. And that is something I will always believe and agree upon. And I am very happy that we got to meet for a brief few seconds in this weird connection thing that is YouTube. So with that, I hope you stay safe this Inauguration Day. And I hope that you, as always, live long and prosper. Thank you so much to all of my patrons who are helping me achieve my dream of doing this full time. And especially a thank you to Catherine Lambeth, Miranda Janelle, Ashley Allen Bokikio, Eli Bergmoss, Ashlyn Solstice, Michael D., Greg Gillum, Stephen Kleinard, Chamomile T., Ulysses the Pagan, Randy Thompson, Boyd and Mary Beth Earl, Wellington Marcus, Stephen Schuhart, Wayne Twitchell, Roar, Ish the Mad, Dominic Noble, Buttoneer, John Steele, Michael Beam, Jedi Indiana Jones, William Stewart, Gavin Robinson, Nathan Olson, BBD, Amanda Ronye Adanya, The Sir Spence, Jason Knott, Hannah F., Andrew Jorgensen, Maeve, Jasmine, Skylar Gray, Sean Piper, Andrew K., Bree Beecher, Subraxis, Jane Packard and Chloe Dollar, Nathan Steele, Tiffany Danger, Mari Neckar, Wendizzle Bizzle, Bush, W. Randy Eady, Mark the Edge, Piston Twisted Garage, Geek Filter, Gretchen Badger, Polly Mina, Jean Mithune, Sarah Bystam, Lysa, Din, Jacob Tovar, Celestial Dawn, Lily, Andrew Lamoureux, Raina C., Zone 1 Librarian, Michael Hardy, Corey Honkanen, and Vale Dunn. Thank you. You are all beautiful, beautiful people.